A quick introduction about myself. Hi everyone, my name is Priyanka Dubhal. I work as a BI technical lead at UserReady. I've worked, I think, 6 years with Tableau, but I also work with other tools like Python. I've been working with Python and data cleaning tools like Matillion, Alteryx. But somehow Tableau has taken up most of my 6 years also. So uh, you can see I've also have a lot of Tableau experience. That's why I'm currently a Tableau public ambassador and have been a Tableau featured author in the past. I'm currently co-leading the Tableau public user group. So if you're interested in how people manage to make those whiz of the days, make sure to check it out. We bring people to talk about their whizzes. I have previously in the past got 5 ways of the days on Tableau Public. Honestly, enjoy Tableau Public a lot for passion projects. So if you haven't tried it out, do give it a try. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can see my handles on the screen. Happy to connect. Always looking for new connections. And apart from all of these technical things, I'm a big fan of Harry Potter and read the books, watched the movies multiple times. Uh, Big into sports, tennis, and music, of course. I also love to travel, so always looking places for travel. Right now it's snowing over here, so it's kind of a dull season, but I'll get back in the summer. All right. So, without any further ado, like I said, I've been working lately with a team and I've been acting more like a problem solver rather than development person in general. So, I came across very different use cases from them and I've tried to present those use cases that they asked me in a more generic form. So, I'll be covering those different tips that I've got from kind of gave them. Thought I'll use that as a option to showcase that in this session. So I'll have 5 different things that I'll cover, and I'll show you the before and after thing. So you'll be seeing why we did whatever we were planning to do it. So starting with this very simple table on the left hand side that you would see, this is a this is basically a simple segment ship mode and order date, and you have a subtotal that you can see on here. So basically, this is just the total of all these numbers. That's it. But this use case was where this other person wanted to actually replace this sum of sales with something else. So let's say you have sales on the numbers, but when you see total, you want to see, let's say, profit ratio, which is basically your sum of profit by sum of sales. So in that case, on the right hand side, you would see that the same table has been replaced now with percentages. So you would see numbers of sales on the top, but when you come down to total, you would see the profit ratio. So how did we do that? Let's take a look at this example. I'll quickly go back to the screen here. And here you can see this is the simple example that we had. Just to duplicate this sheet for the example. And we want to show this instead of having sales, we want to show anything else. So it could be profit, it could be a percentage. Taking To explain this concept first, I need to explain you what size function does. So I'll remove this for now. I'll then function called as size, and this is basically a table calculation that basically just computes as per your choice. And we'll take a look at what it does. So I'll first drag this on the screen. I'll put this on the text. And let me compute this as per my choice, which is basically pane down. And pane is basically each of these sections. That's what Tableau defines as pane. So you can see that the moment I put the size on this table, it shows 4 everywhere except for the total. So total is everywhere 1. So the size function basically gives you the number of rows. That's what it does. This 4 is actually number of rows for segment, number of rows for corporate, number of rows for home office. But total always goes as 1. So we can use this as our trick. And the trick, what we'll do over here is a simple use case of the same thing, sales, and let me just call it a sales profit. And this would be your size function that I said. And we'll use the same option, same thing that we just saw. So basically, wherever the size is equal to 1, that means it's a total. So we can simply call that total as profit ratio. So I'm just saying that wherever the size is 1, I would replace that with a profit ratio. Else, let's make that as a sum of sales. And that's pretty much it. So wherever I see 1, I want to see profit ratio. Other places I want to see sum of sales. If I just simply save, okay, looks like I already have this calculation. Not a problem. Let me just go ahead and copy this and paste it on the text. Again, a quick shortcut if you want to test your calculation, this is how I would do it. Drag it here. Let's remove this for now. And you would see that my size is also visible. Let me remove size. I don't need that anymore. I'll make sure that this is computed by pane down. It is. But somehow my numbers, I don't see percentage over here. So it's not a problem. It's just a formatting thing. So you just right click on this number format and make sure the pane formatting has default as currency because you want to show sales. And your total, if you notice here, we have two kinds of formatting. We have default, total, and grand total. Let's make our total as percentage, and that's pretty much it. So this can be used for many different things. We just use for different measure. You can do a calculation itself inside this sub in the total. Uh, we have used this to show differences in the different use case. So the idea is that when you use size function, you have a way to control the total and the other rows, and then format it differently. So that's what we did using this quick trick that we did with the size function. So if I come back to the main screen again, this is what we managed to do. The last step that I probably forgot to show you is that this total itself. How do I change the total word? So again, format this number, format this total, and in the label part, you can see that we have an option to make this as profit ratio. So you basically replace the name itself. That's the last thing that you can do to make it uh, more uh, clear to the user what exactly you're showing. So will be so the main remember here is that the size function. That's how you control the whole thing. I'll be using the same size function in different ways. So now when we go to the next example here, the same exact thing in a different thing what we did here. So this on the left hand side is a fairly straightforward bar chart that you may have seen before. And we just added a subtotal over here for again same numbers. So basically this is adding up these numbers. But the problem, what happens with using subtotal is that your subtotal takes up most of the space. So I'm actually not able to see these numbers properly, whereas I should be seeing these numbers. I don't want to focus on my total. I want to see the total, but not the bar itself. So that's what we actually tackle in the second one. So you see the second one here. I have my total numbers, but I don't have the bar for them. So the reason we remove the bar is because we want to focus on these bars, not the total bar. And again, here we're using the same trick. So I'll go back to the subtotal chart. I will replicate this again. And here I'll show you what we have done. So you see that total here. You see the total here is actually taking up most of the space. And same exact trick that we have done in the past. We will do something like, let's say, new sales, and exactly the same logic. If the size is 1, which is basically a total, let's call it as 0. So I don't want to see the size of the total, so I'll make that as 0. And if it's not the total, then I want to see the sum of sales. So this is what we are going for. So this will basically replace my length. So I'll copy this whole thing. I'll drag it on my screen and replace the existing one. Oh, did I put it somewhere else? All right. I need to also modify my compute because remember table calculations do require that compute using. That's the major part that you have to always cover. So do a table calculation, don't forget to check this part. And when you do this, see the has been replaced. So I don't see the bar anymore, but I have the second problem now. What do I do about the zero? I don't need the zero here. I actually need the label itself. So we tackled one problem using the size function. We actually replaced the length of the total bar with zero. How do we get this? To get that part here, what you can do is you have to just go and get the sales. So if I come back to my data pane, if I drag my sales on the label, I can show the label as the actual sales number. So I tackled my column, the column length using my size function because I don't want to see the total bar length, but I can show the actual number itself. So the benefit of using this is that I'm now able to focus on the length of individual subcategory. I can see that my phone and my chairs are maybe the highest sales in the whole subcategory. So I'm able to focus on the important parts, not on the total part. So I can see the total, but I don't have to focus on that total itself. I am able to see this blue color line, which we can still hide by basically reducing. Oops, sorry, not this. Did I? By one second, not this. I meant to put the size here. So you can put the size on the size marks and make this as again pane down and just happened here. Gantt chart and okay. So we basically can't remove. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you can basically remove that whole thing using this whole size thing. So size can tackle that whole problem and you can remove that. So the whole idea is to remove the length of the total. And if you see, we're using the same size technique in multiple ways. And this is not it. I've actually seen the same thing used in multiple ways. You can control your uh, length, you can control what you want to show, you can hide the size total itself altogether, and maybe use it as a blank space. So multiple things that you can do with totals itself. Make sure to try it out when you can. Let's move to the next use case that we have. And this is more on the best practices part. So I'm sure many of you would have used this kind of function in their Tableau dashboard or anywhere. So it's basically that we're checking if your product name contains these words. So I'm checking for these brands that we have. So we have 3M, Belkin, GBC, Panasonic, LG, and we're basically just saying that if it contains any of these, then true, otherwise it's false. So I just want to create that calculation to flag those different products that have these pattern. And my general data for product name looks like this. So basically you can see this 3M is just the uh, part of the whole product. So we want to capture that. And this calculation works fine if I go to this projects over here, and if I were to put this contains over here, this will work absolutely fine. To a true, I am getting what I need to, but the calculation is not very efficient. Just because it works fine, we should not say that it's actually the way you should do things. The way actually you should do things is in a different way. Let me just first delete something here because I want to show you one other trick. And I have my calculations. Okay, I think probably close that up. Let me check if I can. Right, so I'll just copy these I have and I'll remove the ones that you can see for here. Again, a quick trick if you haven't seen this before. This was a trick used by I think Lindsay in the Iron Viz. Forgetting which one it was. I think last year. So basically, if you keep your calculations in one window, you have an option to drag them out on the screen like that, and it puts them here. So basically, it's taking the name from the comment. So I can do the same for the first one as well and put it here. All right. So we were talking about this calculation, and I said that this works absolutely fine, but it's not the most efficient way to build your calculation because Tableau mentions this in its own white paper that you should not refer to the same field multiple times. And we have done this referred at least, I think, 6, 7 times over here. So we are calling product name multiple times in this calculation, which is not the best way to handle it. Instead of doing that, we should actually go with the next method, which I have on the bottom. Let me just zoom in a bit for you to see. Okay, the second method that we have is regex match. So regex is a very powerful function, and I think we can do a whole session on regex, which can cover all the regex functions. But to give you a brief idea of a regex, it's a regular expression. So we look for pattern matching using regex function, and regex match is like something like you're matching a regular expression pattern from a product name. So, in simplest terms, what I'm saying over here is that my regex match is checking for a product name and checking all of these patterns. So, instead of having them in multiple sentences, multiple time I'm referring the same field, we have basically replaced that with this words. So, I'm actually passing that using a pipe delimiter, and that's it. So, it's basically one line calculation. I can make it shorter actually if I remove this as well. Again, a shortcut in Tableau, if you just put this part itself, if I just, let's say, put this on the screen here, and let's say if I instead of putting there, let me just put it on the filter itself. Okay, looks like Tableau is not letting me put it on the filter. Not a problem. Let's see if I can filter from here. So sometimes Tableau requires you to save the calculation. That's why you see I'm not able to put it here. But I will put it on the side over here somewhere and try to find true. Let's filter for the, oh, my bad. I think I was filtering for the product name and I filtered something else. Okay, let's just exclude this one. And you can see that this is now giving me the same exact one, 140 rows that I could see in contains, but I made the whole calculation in just one line. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that in Tableau you can do things in multiple ways, and we have to remember that not all the methods are efficient because when we design these dashboards, we don't want to just make them make them work somehow. Our goal should be to make it work efficiently, and these tiny steps that we take, like the step itself, is going to save us some at least some performance issues that could happen in future. So multiple such things when we add up, it's going to make sure that your dashboard works well. And there are other regex functions that I would of course ask you to refer to, which I said it's a long session, so we can't cover those. But any places that you have such kind of statements, there are 90% chances that you can do that with regex. So find a better method. The example that I gave is for just one case, but I'm sure you can find multiple other use case with regex. All right. So moving on, before I go to the fourth one, which is a little deeper one, I want to cover this fifth one. Uh, so fifth one over here, let me do a full screen. So you can see here, I have two simple trend lines, and the first one has data for, you can say, May 712. Then you have August 407. So you can see there are 2 months of data missing in between. but Tableau does not show me that. It's basically connecting the line directly. Ideally, I should have seen zero for those 2 months. And if you see here as well, I have March as 9 and then directly September as 7. There's no in between months over here. So this can actually cause some confusion. We should try to not to present the wrong data. And I'm not saying this is wrong data, but this line dropping from here is not showing me the point that actually my sales were zero in those 2 months. So this is where something called a special value that we have in Tableau comes in help. If you see the bottom chart, you would see that this chart shows explicitly that my sales in June and July was zero. So now I'm able to see that the sales drop. Whereas here I'm not able to see that sales drop. So I'm actually giving the correct picture to my user that see your sales dropped in this particular month, and then it came back, then it went up, it came down. So we're actually showing them actual numbers. You can see March has 9, April has 0, May has 0, June has 0, and July has 0. So all of these have been explicitly pointed out. So the way this is worked is that if I go back to this no special value worksheet, and if I format my sales number, and remember this is your pane formatting, access is just these formatting, so we have to do a pane formatting. In pane, we have this default that we saw, total that we saw, grand total. Now on the bottom you see this special value. You can see that by right now it's hide connect lines, so basically it's just hiding anything that's not in the data and just connecting the lines directly. If I change it to break lines, you will see that it breaks the line. Then you have indicator, which is again 0. Then you have default value. So default value is the one that we have to use. And if I go with default value, I can basically select whatever I want. So let's say if I were to select, just to try it out, if I select some number like this, it will update with that part. So basically my idea here is that with default value, you can actually kind of cover up those missing values. So wherever the data was missing, we are now changing that with a 0, and we're showing explicitly that the data change happened over time. So very interesting hack, and I discovered this. I think a year back when I was accidentally changing something, and I wanted to show that 0 in my data, and I came across this. If you have worked with this is, I'm sure you have found more use cases, and there are definitely more use cases. Let's say you're showing something on the data on the table, you can put this over there as well, and this can come in handy. Another trick while we are here, I would say, is this interesting thing called extend date range. So let's say I don't have data currently for other date, but I want to extend my access. I can actually use this to extend my access. It's very interesting thing that I came across very recently. I'm surprised I did not notice these things before, but yeah, so you can see there are multiple things that you'll keep discovering when you work with Tableau, which is at least good that you won't get bored of it. So that was again on special values. If you have any questions, I'll take it up later for sure. The last one that I want to cover is this example again with the size. Looks like size is the star of our this presentation. So size function, if you see on the left hand side, this is a fairly simple bar chart. You have segment, ship mode, and you have a bar chart here. And on the right hand side, we have just formatted that in a different way. So now instead of showing them side by side, I have a header for my category for my segment. So that header is what we're using, again using size. So how are we actually working with this? So I want to start from scratch. What I'll do is I'll duplicate this sheet, and I will start with the same part, which is sizing. But what I'll do is I'll add a minimum 0 over here. So minimum 0 is like a dummy access that we do in Tableau for labeling purposes. So this is where the label has happened. You'll see as I do this whole thing. But before that, let me create a calculation which will be for my sales. Uh, so again, the same thing. Firstly, let me bring the total here. subtotal on the screen, and I don't need to show my totals. So what I'll do is I will say if my size function, again same thing, is equal to 1, then I would say it's 0, else it's sum of sales and end. So same function that we just did, we're basically just hiding the total because we just want to show the label. That's it. So I'll put this up here and I'll drag it on my sales, replacing it. I have to change the compute using because it's a table calculation. So this has to be a paint down operation. You can see it's 0 now. And next, actually I can just replace this with null. I think null would have been better. Let's do null instead. Okay, looks like Tableau is not letting me replace it. Okay, yeah. Again, compute using paint down. The reason I change it null because I don't need to see any value at all. So I want to just hide that 0 itself. So that's why I went with null. The next thing that we have to do is let's right click and do a dual axis and also synchronize the axis because we have to put them side by side. So instead of putting the 0, what I want to do is I actually want to use a simple Gantt and use that space to show my labels. So if you see in this particular chart, we have uh, the segment in a different format than your number actual ship modes. I have a bold and I have a underline on that. If I had the same formatting, I could have gone with uh, one particular calculation itself. But since I have multiple different formatting, what I will do is I'll simply do a label calculation, label segment, and this would be same as again same function. So the logic, if you see, is remaining same because we have to use the same total, and we would say that if the size is 1, then it's basically my segment. So that is first part, and again this is giving me error because table calculations are aggregate expression, so I have to add a minimum or a maximum in front of this just to make it work. So once I got this, I can basically put this on my label. And the next thing that I have to do is I'll duplicate this calculation, and the second one I'll change it to ship mode. And oh, sorry, did I click? Yeah, and this time I'll change this to not equal to because basically if it is not equal to 1, that means this is my ship mode. And putting this as well on the label. And here I have to make sure that it's on the left hand side. And let's do one other thing. Okay, 1 second. Looks like this is, yeah. So basically I can hide these ones because I don't need to see the header from here. Show header. And yeah, the last step that you can do is either you can probably keep this as automatic and maybe change this to something of your choice. Let's just try it out. Okay, let's see if I can. Ideally, we don't need to do that, but somehow Tableau is okay. Yeah, so you can see that my label is on the right hand side. I can just adjust the axis as per my choice. Let's give some more spacing. Oh, I think probably a little too much. Let's go down with 200. Yeah, so you can give it as much as spacing as you want. And this way you have a different format over here. So I can basically come up here and say that my segment has to be bold and let's say underline, whereas my ship mode can be just as it is, and work with it. So remove this label. All right. Looks like I did something wrong. That's bad when I present something and I missed some step. Okay, let's come back to the original one just to make sure I did not miss anything. Okay, so I have the sales profit ratio, which is the same calculation that I've shown you. And then you have this adjusted sales, which is again the same thing. Okay, same thing like that I said. And then you have the segment ship mode and you have the label. Okay, looks like it worked fine over here, but I don't know what I missed in that step. But you can see that this is the same thing. I have hidden the headers from here. And the use case for this would be just to show the numbers in a more formatted manner. Instead of having two columns, I have a header on the top that is basically used to show the same bar chart. So if you see here, I had three different use cases with ship with the size itself, and that's just three. I actually have a few more. If you start adding up, I'm sure there'll be much more use cases to add. But this is just a starter point for you. If you come up with some more use cases, do let me know. I'll be happy to learn something more and try it out. All right, let me go back here. Let me stop sharing.
All right,
And
thanks Priyanka. It was a great session. I thoroughly enjoyed both the size and regex, and I'm excited to try it out.
okay.
All right, we have a couple of questions. Okay, so Ganesh is asking how do you increase your font? Um, so Ganesh, uh, is it the calculation you're talking about? I think that's what he means. So
Okay.
when you were actually creating a calculated field,
Mhm.
you were like zooming in on the text, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what he's asking for. How do you do that?
Yes. Yes, so it's basically if you're using a mouse, you can use that wheel. If you're using your laptop, if you just expand on the mouse pad, it actually zooms just like a normal zoom in. It actually works in the window as well, calculation window.
All right, cool. Thank you. Priyanka, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in the regex, you used a pipe operator, right? Is it the default one, or can we use any other operator, any other
Uh,
separator?
I believe it's a default one. That's the format that they have. Yeah, so it's a default one that you can use for the format.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
we have one question from Dhaval. So he's asking, I think this is to Akshara. We know that data visualization and analytics provides greater and deeper understanding. However, could you comment on the overuse of data and the misleading effects it might have?
Overuse of data. So I did talk about that there are a lot of data sources that we have. There is an overload of data. I'm not sure how you overuse the data, because once you have specific tools to filter out the data, once you do the data pre-processing, you boil the data down to the specific needs that you have. And as Priyanka was using different sets of data sets, right? Like she was using sales data, and you can take a particular timeline of that particular sales data, and you can also put filters on how much data you have to use. So I believe if you have proper pre-processing techniques and proper filters, you can actually prevent that overcrowding of data, if that's what he means. Yeah.
Thanks, Akshara. I think he means how do we stop people from not accessing the data? Um,
How do we
that's what I.
stop people from not accessing the data? Okay. So we do have well, you can actually lock your data if you're using tools like Python and SQL. You can actually lock your individual data. And if you want to there are other cybersecurity tools that are out there in the market, which help you actually protect your data and not let other people not use your data or access your data. In terms of I I think that's pretty much answers the question of how do you prevent other people from not using your data.
I think that question was more specific to Tableau, where we have the row level security. We also have AD groups. Using that, you
Yeah.
can limit the access to data and your visualizations.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do we
Yeah,
have any
I
other
have a couple
question?
of questions. Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, Shrikant.
This is to Priyanka. Hi, Priyanka.
Hi, Shrikant.
Hi. So, just wanted to understand the query execution time between uh, the if condition and the regex. Which one is faster?
Sorry, if and what?
If and the regex.
Regex. The first one with contains, I don't have the exact time, but I'm
Okay.
sure it's going to the regex would be faster. I believe it would be
Okay.
faster by a few seconds maybe. Again,
Okay.
these won't make a major impact. Like it's not going to change from 3 to 4 seconds, but it's
Mhm.
just a minor few milliseconds mostly.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
but
and it
we
can make a lot
use
of difference when you're handling large data sets,
correct,
Yes,
correct.
Shrikant, like the ones that we do.
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
In a long run, it would definitely add up. Like those minor changes in calculations would definitely add up.
Okay, okay. And the last question. So, do you have more tips and tricks stored at somewhere?
I have a few in my Medium blog. I can let me see if I can find that. Yeah, so I used to share. It's been a while since I added some more tips. Maybe I'll get
Okay,
back to it. But yeah, I do have been sharing some on Twitter and on that blog itself.
sure, sure. Thank you.
I'll put that link. Yeah.
I think we'll have to do another session only on the tips and tricks.
Yeah, yeah.
We learned a lot of new things today. I'm sure all the participants got something out of today's sessions.
Okay. Priyanka has already shared the Medium blog.
Yeah, so but that has a few tips that I shared in the past. So yeah.
Okay.
All right,
To
Priyanka, I
forward
have
this
another
to Priyanka.
question. So I always have trouble when I'm trying to format a data table, right? Is there a trick, or how do you normally do it? Like when you add outlines, or you know or do the color banding, right? I
Mhm.
always don't. I just try out different things and settle with what I want. But is there a shortcut to that, or how do you normally do that?
Hmm.
So you
Okay.
want only the row dividers and not the column dividers. You want to, you want the outline only for the headers and not for the pane, and so on.
Okay. Okay. I think we do have that level of formatting in the table. Yeah, so I know the format. Let me see if I can quickly bring my
Sure.
Tableau thing just quickly. Yeah, so if you see this formatting over here, there are a couple of things on the top. It is confusing. I was lost in this for first few years for sure. So all of these are where you start formatting. The ones for borders are here and the shading. So I think what you were saying, Deepak, I think you do have an option to hide the header formatting. For example, if you notice that header line went off, those kind of formatting, is that what you were talking about? Or like you can say you can add up more layers. Like if I change this level, adds up other lines as well. So there are a couple of things that you can check here. So if you see this, it adds up lines or removes the lines. And same for the shading here as well. So you can see the shading as well. You can
Yeah.
it
The
keeps
thing is, somehow it's been over 7 years, 6, 7 years, but this is something I still struggle on a daily basis. So
okay.
I just reset everything and then
Mhm.
start doing one by one. So I just thought if there's an easier way, maybe how you
Okay.
complement it. Anyway, that helps. All right. Do we have any other questions? I don't think so. All right. Thank you both. We had a great session today. Um, we will definitely look to have one more with both of you.